Alright, I'm going to take the tank out of this bike because I'm having flow problems with it. I get when it sits too long, I get a weird, it stops flowing well and I have to pressurize the tank and then it starts acting normal again. So I'm going to see what's wrong with it. Maybe I have a new fuel line for it. I don't like the fuel line that's in it. So I'm going to start that up. I figured I'd tape it. Show you a little bit of it. This is the fuel gauge connection for the Stella and newer Vespa PXs and PXs that have them. So I'm just going to unscrew these two screws, just unclip this wire, and then it unhooks here. It just comes right off, okay? There's a little rubber here. You have to pull that out and put it aside. I pulled the bellows out. I'll show you how to put it back on. There's this little gap here. If you hook it up like this, it kind of holds it as you go around. See, right there? There's a little gap right there. I'll show you how to use that maybe. It helps a little bit putting it on, even though it's still extremely difficult sometimes. And so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to unhook the fuel line. I'm going to drain the tank into this 2-gallon container here. I'm going to use this little extra extension here to reach the tube into here. Just empty the tank. It's easier to do it with an empty tank, unless you like getting wet with fuel, because you just do. So, also there's a couple times when this has to be straight up and down, the fuel tap, to get it through the hole properly. So that's a problem too with, you know, fuel coming out of the line. So here we go. Let me set up. Okay, you can see how I have it hooked up from coming out of the bike into this tube down into the tank. See it? And you can hear it's flowing so strong, man. I can't believe I have any issues. It's flowing like a dynamo, man. Usually Stellas don't flow that well, but I have a Scooter Mercado standard fuel tap in there, which I kind of lightly poured it out myself a little bit with a Dremel, very gently, so it flows really well. I'm curious to see what the heck is going on with this tank. Maybe there's something in the tank, maybe there's something going on, I don't know. But who knows, maybe I won't even find it. I hope I do find what the issue is. I was thinking it was the gas cap was creating a vacuum, but I got so pissed I drilled a hole through the top of the gas tank, make sure that thing isn't, I'm getting a vacuum from the tank not breathing, the fuel cap, but that's not the issue. Alright, I'll move on to the next part after this. Now, you can rub a little oil on, see this oiling tube that's coming out? Rub a little oil here. You got some 30 weight or whatever you got laying around. Rub it with your fingers on here until it slides nice and smooth. See how easy it slides in and out of there? Just rub it up the tube just a little bit. Moisten it. Same thing with this tube. Otherwise you're going to be struggling with it. You know, you don't want to be fighting with anything. So, and sometimes you can kind of move the tubes back and forth a little bit, kind of get the oil into the actual rubber over there. See? And it'll make it a little easier for you. You won't be fighting with it. Now, as you pull it out, see this lip on here, is going to get stuck on this, and you'll be pulling and pulling, and you get very frustrated if you don't look and make sure it's up and down. It goes out a lot easier. Up and down, it goes in a lot easier with this up and down. When it's up and down, also on the way in, when you're putting it in, you got to put it perfectly straight. Shine a light in there, and then when you get close, you get a little needle nose plier, grab it and kind of wiggle it so the little head pops through, and then it'll come. This part is also a bitch. Sometimes you can't do it with the rubber on it, and then you have to put the rubber afterwards, which is very difficult. You have to do it with a screwdriver very gently. Sometimes this will stick, which it's rare, but it does once in a blue moon. It did this time to me, so I get a screwdriver and I put yellow tape on it. See it right here? And so I don't scratch anything, and just pry it out, because there's a little gap here in the back. Just pry it a little bit, pry it around, pry it. You don't scratch it, and it'll come out. Then what you do is you put one hand up front and you kind of wobble it back and forth, until it starts coming up. Then you grab the back and you kind of pull the back out a little bit more than the front. And you, if you can, sometimes push this in gently with your thumb. Very gently, because you can break this. And it'll push it out. Alright, let me get the tank out. Okay, I can't really show you everything. I'm here alone. I'm doing my best, alright? This is a little tank workstation you can kind of build. If you get 2 small half-size milk crates, you can get your hands on them. You pile one on top of the other, and it holds it from corner to corner. It holds the tank perfectly in it. See it? The knob sticks through the side. See it right there? You could turn it on and off, and you stick the tube out through the holes on the bottom, and it goes right into the tank. And it's kind of like a little test station you can make. Just a little thing you can do if you really get carried away about working on these things. This is the gas tank now. I'm laying it down sideways here. Now, no matter what you do, there's going to be some fuel left over in here because, see this fuel tap? There's a nut on the other side, and that nut sometimes, on a Stella, they're different thickness. On a Stella, they're pretty thick. They're like that thick. And there's a lip, and it holds a little bit of fuel in here. It adds up to a bit, you know. So what I do is I have this absorbent material here. But you can use anything. Maybe a lot of cloths or an old cloths you have, or maybe like, I don't know, like an old comforter pieces that you have chopped up or something. Or you can do it outside somewhere and let the fuel just dump. But, you know, it's not a lot. It'll probably evaporate outside anyway pretty quick. But it's enough to be a little problem. Be careful, it does catch on fire, you know, so don't have any sparky things or anything that lights up around you or anything like that. Or don't smoke. Alright. These are the wrenches I'm going to be using. I'm not going to be using all these. I'm going to be using one of these two. These are the wrenches for the ones with the oiler in it, the oil reserve for the oil pump. And this one's an older type. See how it's straighter? See, it gets the nut over there. You go in through the top with this to get the nut inside. Alright. It's crooked. It's pretty simple. I'll just tell you right here. You go through the hole, you grab it, and you spin it, and you put it back on, and you spin it, and you put it back on, and you spin it. Now, never spin this. Never spin this to make it easy, because sometimes this has an air vent tube that's bent sideways in there, and it'll hit the wall, and you'll break it, or you'll bend it, or you'll wreck it. Alright, so it's very tempting to just want to spin this or something, but it's not good. And what I do is I spin this, then I'll take the edge off of this, and I'll just hit the side of the nut and spin the nut out like that, till it comes up. So I'm not going to sit there forever doing little turns. Just try to hit it out like that. Alright? Okay, this thing's giving me a little bit of a hard time. I tightened it probably a little too tight when I put it in last time, and I'm struggling with it. So, there's an arm in here with the float, and I don't want to hit it too much. So I'm going to pull it out, and I'll see if I have any access through here. I've never pulled this out before, so let's see what happens. Maybe I can get it from here. Alright, always expect the worst. What are you going to do? Alright, I got it with the straight one, the old school one, through the fuel gauge float here. The float for the tank. And you can look in there. See, look, I got it right with the straight look. See, here it is. Show you what it looks like. See? But I could have got it with the other one. At least I got some light in there too, this way. Might be a better way to do it. I don't always do it this way. You know, it's always, you never know what you're going to get sometimes. But you just got to keep pumping forward. What are you going to do? It's not rocket science. You know, you can figure it out. Okay? Okay, this is the fuel tap. This is the filter. Fuel filter right here. This holds the fuel filter on. It's a little clip right there. You can pull it out. Pull this off. Turn it this. You can slide it off. clean it. It's pretty spotless. Look in here. It's all clean. If not, you can blow it out. Put a little carburetor cleaner in there. Spray some down the tubes. Clean all this out. You may want to sometimes pull the rubber out inside of there before you start putting chemicals on it. It may last longer. Alright, now to open it, I leave at this point I would leave this on. It's just so you don't have to think so much, because when this is pointed up, when you install it, you know it's on right. And you see this little spring with the 2 screws? This puts pressure on this. I'll show you how it works soon, but there's a little notch right here. There's a notch on it that stops it when it spins that way and that way. See? And that notch always goes up. Not down here, but up. Alright. A lot of times people put it opposite ways. A lot of times these are put together all wrong, and the fuel tap's not working right. Only like a part of it's working, like the reserve or the regular setting. Okay, but not both, because it's not in there right. Okay, and unscrew this, open it up. Okay, here we go. Alright, this is your reserve right here. See, when the fuel drops below this, then the fuel can't get into the fuel tap, and then you turn the knob over to reverse to reserve, and it goes down that hole down there. See it? That's actually a larger hole. You get better flow through there. Some people who hop up bikes, they always keep it on reserve all the time. Just you get more flow out of here. This hole's smaller because of the tube. But if it's not too bad hopped up, it won't make that much of a difference. Probably doesn't make that much of a difference anyway, but who knows? You do get better flow there. Alright, there's 3. Now there's a, see that cutout? It goes on the bottom. See? And it spins from 2 holes, these 2 holes, to those 2 holes. Connects them, either this one or this one. Alright? This goes to the reserve. This goes to your regular fuel flow, and this is your fuel. This is your air. This is your connection to your air and fuel. It goes to the air tube and fuel. The air vent is always connected to the fuel. So if there's a crack in the tube, it's always going to leak fuel. You'll never be able to shut it off if there's a leak, if there's a crack in the tube. I've seen sometimes this tube crack, and you'll never be able to shut off. You'll never really get a shut off. It'll keep dripping. It also can leak around here. If this is really loose, sometimes you can put a sealant around here or something and put it in, or maybe like a pinch of JB Weld around it, just a thin layer, and push it in. Alright, this is the rubber piece that you can change, that goes bad sometimes, and it's simple. You replace this. If it's in good shape, this will last a long time after you change it. Let me see if I can get it out. Oh, there you go. So you just change it. This is going to be a long video, huh? Alright. See it? Sometimes if you don't have the parts and it looks bad and you're in a rush, you can and this other side sometimes looks brand spanking new. You can flip it over and it'll probably be fine for another quite a few years if you're in a jam, you know. All right. What else can I say? The air vent's always open. That's why sometimes when you tow these vehicles on like a flatbed or something, or in a vehicle, the fuel will splash down this tube and flood your bike after a long towing. And that's why the bikes are sometimes flooded when you get to places, and it's really hard to start because it's splashing down the tube, and then it, you know, and then the needle in your bike is jumping up and down too, so you're getting fuel passing everything. Sometimes it's a really good idea to run the bike dry and take the fuel out of the bike if you're towing it a long distance. Alright, let me see, what else can I say? Alright, just spray cleaner in here. Take the rubber out, spray cleaner in it. And remember, when you put it back together, this part goes down. The cutout goes down. And this little spring part, the little notch, there's a little notch in there, the little notch goes upward. So this down, notchward up. But you won't screw up if you leave this on. That's why I leave it on. You know, you won't have to think about it, you know. This spring piece too, if it starts getting lazy and it's not, you control the pressure against here by how tight you put the these two screws, and you control how much pressure you have on there. If this spring starts going bad, then pull this all apart, take the spring, and you can kind of bend it with 2 pliers and bring it back to life, give it the angle back, or buy a new one. Alright. Okay, it's all put together. Now, there's a little stopper on this spring piece that you screw on, and the little notch is over here on the top. And make sure the notch is up at the top. That's what stops this when it goes this way and that way. And make sure it stops left, reserve, right, close when you're looking at it, okay? And just the way it was when you started it, okay? Alright, now one way to test that you got this right, and I would test it any way possible, even if it sounds horrible. You can put a tube on here, and you blow air into here. Put your finger over the air vent. Close it. Blow into it. When it's closed, you should be able to blow absolutely no air through there. When it's... Now you put it on reserve, right? Put your finger over the air vent. Blow in here. You should get flow. You'll feel the air blow out through here. Okay? Now you do it all the way to reserve. Put your finger over the air vent and blow in here. And it should flow. It'll flow strongest under the reserve because it's got the biggest hole in here. This one has a little smaller hole, the regular flow area, because it has a little tube that comes up halfway up to here that when the fuel gets under it, it stops flowing. So it's a thinner tube. Alright, that's how I test it. Just a little thing I do, okay? Now, when you put this in the tank, this goes in the hole of the tank. The rubber's on this side. It only needs rubber on one side. You take the nut, you put this, you guide this over to where the hole of the tank is. You move it around, and you drop this is the hole of the tank. You drop it on it like that, and you wobble it till it falls over like that. And then you just turn it. It's the easy way to get it there, okay? Okay, I've got the bolt tight in there. It's pretty easy to do. Okay, that's done. Now I hooked up the fuel line. I'm going to keep this fuel line because it's very flexible. It looks okay. When they get old, they get stiff. You can feel they're old. They're hard. They don't bend, you know? They don't bend that much. That's when you know they're old. This one feels really good. It looks like a very high quality hose. I would say even better than the ones I bought. So I'm keeping it. And it's clean. It's all right. Now they like to kink right here. And this hose is pretty cool because it takes a lot to make it kink. See, I'm bending it. It's not kinking. Test it. Go like this. Take it and see if it kinks. If you got a hose that kinks really easy here, don't use it. See right here? It's not kinking. So that's a big kink problem right there. Now this one has, the Stella has a little section for the hose. See it right there? So you just shove it in there. There. See? Which keeps it where it's supposed to be. Pull it around until it's tight. There. There you go. Now, this is the oil hose, this little thin one, right? To make things easy, what I do is I get a little nut or whatever fits in here. I wrap it with Teflon tape or even electrical tape, and I shove it in here to keep this thing from leaking everywhere, okay? Alright, let's go on to the next thing. Now, you put a little cloth, put something, this is kind of thick, this absorbent material I have, whatever you have, just put it up here. Sit the tank on it like that, see, so you don't scratch the bike. And then just put your arm down there, put the hoses where they belong, and gently take the cloth out and gently drop it in and pull the tank in. Go with the nose in first, and then I'll show you the next part, okay? Hold on, I have to actually show you that. Now, to most normal people, this is the most frustrating part, getting the tank in properly. You got to line this up, put this straight forward with it pointing up. Then you go in here with a needle nose plier, stick it in a bit and line it up and just wiggle it out of that hole properly. You know, this is when you slow down your gears. Okay, also lining this up. Sometimes I have to take this plastic out and shove it back in here later. It's not an easy thing to do all the time. Okay, that's probably the toughest part. I'm not, you know, I wouldn't not do it because you think it's tough. You can do it. All right. I'm put a little sealant on here on both sides of this gasket. Lined it up. I'm gonna put it in. Let me line up the holes. There we go. Here it is. Put a little bit on each side because I'm gonna make sure it doesn't leak. I saw a little. I don't know. I just want to be extra careful. Okay. Okay, I've got everything where it belongs. Don't over tighten anything. No, take it chill. No, I have gorilla hands, and I have a bad habit of over tightening things. With Vespas, make sure you use the right lock washers and washers. That's your safety point. Don't over tighten things like nuts because it's a delicate bike. You know, the steel isn't so bad, but on the engine, be really careful. There are parts on the bike where you can break anything. So just make sure you use the washers, lock washers, and even a little blue Loctite where you think anything could come loose. Okay, so aligning the seat is next. Now, if you really want to get a good alignment with the seat, leave these bolts a little loose. Just enough so you can move this around. Just enough. See it? Now, you bring the seat down and you line up the hole. I'm going to move all over the place here. Now, you line it up and make sure it falls perfectly right in the hole. Eyeball it from underneath if you have to. Look around. Make sure it just falls gently. Then just lift it just enough for you to get to the nuts and tighten it just a little. And then do it again. Make sure it falls in. Tighten it a little bit more and then drop it in. Don't lift it all the way because you'll move it. Just a little and then until it lines up perfectly. And then lock it. You don't want to screw that up, okay? Just because you can put it in and make it miserable for you to open it again and fix it. So that's a surefire way to get it perfect. Okay. I covered the tip of this so that it doesn't cut the bellows. This is the bellows. Do this end first. You come over to this end, put electrical tape, or I put a electrical shrinky dinky thing over here. And see this cutout? That cutout holds it so it doesn't unravel as you're going around. You take it, put it in on the inner lip, press it in. It's not easy to do. I may struggle with this. Okay. Okay, I got it in. And as you get up to the top, you hold it in place with your finger. Come around. Now you got the back end on, which is the tough part. Pull it, come around, pull it. This is really tough to do. A lot of people struggle with this. So do I. Not a lot of people. Okay, there it is. It's on. All right. All right, what you can do is heat this up with a hair dryer or a heat gun. If you use a heat gun, be careful. And what you do is you grab it and you stretch it, and you stretch it when it's hot until you make it a little looser than normal. And just keep doing that until you increase its size a little. And maybe while it's still warm, you put it on. All right? That's an easier way to do it. I probably did it once. That's why it's already loose. Okay? Okay, I'm on the other side of the bike. So sometimes I do a few extra steps just so I don't have to fight with the bike. So this, I teeter the bike on a piece of wood. See there? You can use a 2x4 would be even better if you have one. Just teeter it on something. I find it easier that way. Then I hook. I do it this way. I have a lot of boards and stuff nailed on the ceiling here, and I just use them as lifting points. So I lift the bike up, take the wheel, just teeter the bike forward till the tire touches the ground. The back tire is in the air. Screw it, drop it off. It's the easiest way for me to do it. For me to work on the bike. Okay, now I'll show you why I did that. This gives you an easier access to the hose for the oil box on this side. I'll show you. Let me see if I can get the light in here. Alright, there you go. Got some light in here, I don't know. You know, it looks like a mess. Give me a minute, I'll work it out. I'll put it up the ground. Okay, there you go. Alright, see that? I don't know if you can see, there's a... Right here's the hole that goes into the oil box. It gives you full access to it from here. Now I put a piece of paper in the tip of the fuel line. See it? So I don't get any grime because this is filthy. And you just push it up through here. Now this line is extra thick, so I'll have to struggle to get it in there. It takes two hands. I only have one hand now, so I'm not going to do it. And from doing it from over there is miserable. Or you can remove the oil box and do it that way. I just didn't feel like taking the carburetor and the oil box out. I think it's easier this way. All right, and I put the paper in here because it's so grimy in here. You're going to end up getting like dirt and little pieces of sand or something in there. So I roll up a piece of Bounty paper and shove it in here. Make sure it doesn't block the way on the sides. Make sure you can pull it out. And it's tight so you can pull it out and doesn't push itself in. Or you can use like an earplug that you wind up if it's not wet with fuel. Take like one of those squishy earplugs and shove it in here. Those are just little tips. There's a lot of ways to skin a cat, you know? Okay, my synopsis of what was probably wrong with my flow of my bike seizing up once in a while when I parked it for a long time. Okay, I found everything in the fuel system to be perfect. I mean, everything was perfect. The issue, I think, was that I've heard from a lot of people who build quick bikes that if you pinch the top of the air vent, you get a stronger flow. So I tried it on this bike. I pinched it, and I did get a stronger flow. But my issue is, I think when I park the bike for a long time with lower levels of fuel, it has a hard time starting up because without the vent. But once it does, it goes really quick. But I think that's the only thing I could find that was different about this bike. I took everything apart. I took the carburetor apart too. I didn't show that. But I looked at everything. And that's the only thing I saw that was different. So I cut it open again. I bent it back up so it hits the top of the tank, and it seems to be. And we'll see what happens. That's the only difference I found on the whole thing. And so this is just an old tap I'm using as an example. Old school one. See, it has a big reservoir. All right. And I'm sorry, I heard a sound down here in the basement. I didn't know where it was coming from. All right, and all right. There's the engine. It's all buttoned up, nice and neat. See, everything's done. Maybe I'll kick-start it real quick for you. This fuel's on. Sounds awesome. I like the sound of the Aceto a lot. It's probably the best sounding exhaust I think there is. And that's it. Scooter's done. That's the new decals I got for it. No air bubbles. I took my time doing it with a nice little credit card. Really slow. She's all put together. All the issues that Stella's tend to have, the crank that goes bad, the crank's been changed. The fuel's been flowed. They like to lean out at high RPMs when you hop them up in any way. The shitty exhaust was changed. This one, the electrical system, the cables aren't tight on it. Sometimes they're tight and they pull when you shift, and you pull the cable loose. And they also tend to have, the 08 ones tend to have tight cables on the other side at the CDI that can kind of give you problems sometimes. But everything's checked. Everything's perfect on this bike. Should be a really nice little bike now. I'll take it for a test ride. Thanks for hanging in there and watching this long-ass video. Take care.